Puppycat, the adventurous pussycat that went on so many extraordinary adventures with her friends. Originally started as a book series around the early 2000s created by Laura Jones. Around 2011, due to the massive sale of the books, as well as winning several awards, Cool Abbey Productions, the owners of Puppycat, would partner with Nickelodeon and produce an ever-so-famous television series that premiered on CITV, Channel 5's Milkshake block, as well as the country's local Nick Jr. feed. The show itself centered around Puppycat, a bandana-wearing kid in her reign, with her breed being a tabby cat, leading her agentic team of friends who are stuffed animals, who are Elma the bunny, Zuzu the Dalmatian puppy, an owl named Owl, which, you guessed it, is very wise, as well as Mo the mouse. Like all animals, they walk upright, talk and go on many extraordinary adventures to faraway lands of wonder by any kind of transportation they need that matches her bandana. But however, all things don't go as planned as Egbert, a European badger, shows up and ruins the fun for them. As of course, every time Poppy asks Egbert if he wants to go on an adventure with her, she ends up saying no thank you, as he got some very important stuff to do. Like, what very important stuff do you have to do? This show became insanely popular, ultimately led to a very big impact on merchandise. Though sadly nowadays, most of the merchandise of the show are very hard to come across. Some of the merchandise include books based on the TV show, some weird looking figures, and most famously stuffed animals. Like the XL size Talking Puppycat plush. Which, my gosh, I want this plush so bad, but it's sad that it's very hard to find. However, there's just one piece of Puppycat media that most people weren't unaware of, unless they actually saw her, and that's a Mascot suit. At some point in your life, you probably went to an event that actually had her, but was mostly in the United Kingdom. You mostly saw her at a children's festival, a mall, or even in a Nickelodeon theme park in Blackpool. However, over the past few years, originally bearing the book design, to more recent costumes bearing the TV show design. So in this video, I'm going to go over my thoughts on every single Puppycat mascot suit that exists, from the best looking to probably the most off-model looking ones. Now, this is not going to be a history video. Instead, I'm going to critique every Puppycat mascot suit that was made, giving most of my pros and cons as we go through every costume. So I'm only going to cover mostly Puppycat costumes, not other character costumes like SpongeBob or Chuck E. Cheese. So if you're in the comments, don't request me to do any other critiquing mascot suit videos, as this is the only one I plan on doing. So without further ado, we're off to rank the costumes. But first, we're going to need to talk about the first costume! So the first costume we're going to talk about is when she was only a book character. And yes, around that time, she did get a mascot suit when the books were still in production. So, let's see what it looks like. Wow. They certainly improved since then. While I was only able to find one photo with this costume, I did happen to find a video of this costume in action. So for a first attempt at replicating Puppycat's design, it's not horrible, but it definitely isn't good. Well, as for this costume, the overall design is okay, I guess, in terms of proportions, but my main problem is the color of her fur. Her fur is not even orange, it's brown! I don't even know what company even made this costume, but it could have very well been International Mascots Inc., since it looks so similar to some of their other costumes. I also don't know how long this costume was even used for, but it was probably short-lived. Although I think the video I'm showing you predates all the way back to 2006, and the photo I just showed you predates back to 2010, so it probably lasted until then. And speaking of which, 2010 was just a year before the TV show premiered. So yeah, there's not much really enough to say about this costume right here, so let's just go on to the next costume. Beginning around sometime in 2012, a brand new Puppycat mascot suit was created. And this one you're probably more familiar with. You might have actually seen this costume. Unlike the last Puppycat costume I just talked about, I actually know the company that actually made this costume. It was designed by the British mascot making company Rainbow Productions, who mostly made mascot suits based on popular British characters, like Bluey, Bing, Peppa Pig, and even Blue from Blue's Clues, even though he's a character straight from America. And I know a lot of people do like this costume, and I guess that's okay, but in my opinion, this costume isn't really that good. It's mostly because this costume looks very off-model compared to the actual cartoon design. I mean, it's not as off-model compared to the first Puppycat costume, but I will say this is a lot more off-model than what I expected. This guy looks like frickin' Aru from Monster Hunter. And since this was based on the TV show design, since it was created around the time when the TV show just came out, she sports her bandana, which is the first one that ever do so. She is orange this time, which is good, but I noticed in some pictures and videos that the costume was more of a yellow color. I'm not sure why, but it is probably due to sun damage. But really, I guess I'm the only one that doesn't even like this costume. I mean, I don't really hate it, it's just not my favorite. In comparison to the previous Puppycat costume, this costume is pretty much the go-to costume for most events that involved her, as well as appearing in other media. For example, she was used a lot in many of Milkshake's promotional videos, such as this one where they read the Puppycat book known as Blastoff, which is actually based on the episode Space Monsters. And here's a fun fact, she actually went to a Mascot basketball game held in London around July 2013, but sadly there is no footage of that particular basketball game. And by the way, there was actually a time when this Puppycat costume actually met her voice actor, being Jonna Page, who previously played Stacy in the BBC television series Gavin and Stacey. And despite the fact the show concluded its run in 2016, it still airs on TV most notably. And apparently, according to Rainbow Productions' website, you're actually still able to rent her out for events. Do you dare me to actually rent out this costume for an event that is held at a convention or something? No way. But as this costume was the go-to costume for most events, it was also the most common one to be found in the United Kingdom. However, around late 2012 or early 2013, a brand new Puppycat mascot costume was made, but unlike this one, the one I'm about to talk about is a lot harder to track down. In July of 2013, it was announced that Puppycat will be arriving to a Nickelodeon theme park in Pleasure Beach, Blackpool, known as Nickelodeon Land. But however, some people who were reading the blog might have noticed something different. If you don't know by now, then I might as well tell you. It featured a new Puppycat costume. And to those who didn't see the previous costume at any event she participated in, and if you went to Nickelodeon Land, then you probably saw this costume. This costume is a little more common, but was mostly outside of the United Kingdom. And if you haven't guessed by now, this is my most absolute favorite Puppycat costume of all. And it's by far the best Puppycat mascot suit ever made. Unlike the last costume, this costume was not designed by Rainbow Productions, but was rather designed by someone else. And just like the previous Puppycat costume that I just talked about, I actually know the company that made this costume. This Puppycat mascot costume was created by the very well-known mascot costume company, Skull Productions, who are mostly known for creating costumes based on licensed characters. These include the Looney Tunes, Scooby-Doo, SpongeBob, and hey look, it's my boy My Melody! As well as other iconic mascots like the Burger King, the Coca-Cola Polar Bear, the Salvation Army mascot, and even Fuka-chan, as well as Saki Shibasaki. It's pretty much designed and assembled the same way as the last costume I just talked about, but this one is so much better. And what I mean by that, it almost looks exactly like the cartoon design. She's all the right colors, everything's sized correctly, and even has a big, wide open smile on her face. And the smile on the face actually makes her look a lot cuter than before. This makes her look a lot more welcoming. In comparison to the last two costumes I just talked about, this truly is the best Puppycat costume ever made. As long as some people did like the Rainbow Productions costume, and while I didn't like it in my opinion since it was so off-model, this costume, man, this costume is how you actually make an actually good-looking Puppycat mascot suit. Although the sad thing is, it was mostly used at Nickelodeon Land, and it is unknown if this costume was ever used elsewhere. As most UK events that featured Puppycat just simply used the previous costume. I have no idea why. Like, this Puppycat costume looks so well done, it would be shocking if it was only ever used at Nickelodeon Land. But however, I did remember reading on an article about her arrival to Nickelodeon Land, but it was on a different website, which had mentioned Cool Abby having hopes to bring her to other theme parks, which actually included the Universal Studios theme parks in Orlando, Florida, as well as Hollywood and California. But the sad thing is, this never happened. Though I really wish it did, however. Now you're probably wondering, how many units of this costume were made? Well, it is estimated as unknown. I'm not sure where this costume is now, as I likely think that this costume is no longer at Nickelodeon Land. Like, is this costume in like someone's private collection? Or was this costume sadly destroyed? I really hope it wasn't destroyed. Like, this costume looks so well done, it would be very sad if this costume had a sad fate where it was destroyed. I certainly hope it wasn't destroyed, and I certainly hope somebody took it home with them and had it in its private collection. To the person who is watching this that has this costume in a private collection, I am very proud of you. Like, now after seeing this, I really want this costume in my collection. I certainly hope more units than just one unit were made. And that concludes me going over every single Puppycat costume ever made. But before we leave, I'm going to rank all the Puppycat costumes I saw, from the bottom to the top. And since there's only 3 costumes of Puppycat ever made, this ranking is going to be very short. Number 3, Brown Furred Book Version Poppy. Number 2, Rainbow Productions Poppy. And finally, number 1, Skullin Productions Poppy. This one is my number 1 since it is the best looking and most accurately designed Puppycat mascot suit. But the sad thing is, this costume is really hard to track down. But that's not big of a deal, especially by the fact this costume is very well done. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed me ranking all of the Puppycat mascot suits. Especially if you're a Puppycat fan, and especially if you're an adult fan of the show. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments section below. And comment down below on which Puppycat costume is your favorite. My most favorite is obviously the Skullin Productions one that I just talked about. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this video, and I had an extraordinary time making this video. So, thank you guys for watching. And you'll always be glad that you'll have a friend like Puppy.
Puppycat.